I was folding laundry when my father called me into his study that Thursday afternoon. The house smelled like jasmine tea and my mother's perfume. Everything looked the same as it always had. The dark wood furniture, the family photographs on the mantel, the afternoon light cutting through the blinds. But something in my father's voice made my hand still on the shirt I was holding. "Jenny, sit down." I sat. My mother stood by the window, her back to me. My sister Lily wasn't there, which should have told me everything. "We need you to do something for the family," my father said. His voice was careful, measured. "There's been a situation with Lily, some photographs, a misunderstanding with a married man." I said nothing. I watched my mother's shoulders, how they stayed perfectly straight. "The media will be involved soon. We need to manage this carefully. Your mother and I have decided it would be best if you went abroad for a while, to study. We've already arranged everything, a program in London, fully funded." "When?" I asked. "Next week." I looked at the family photo on his desk. It was from last Christmas. Lily stood in the centre, radiant in red. I was on the edge, half cut off by the frame. "How long?" "A year, maybe 2, until this settles down." I nodded. I didn't ask why it had to be me. I didn't ask why Lily couldn't be the one to leave. I already knew the answer. I had always known the answer. "The journalists might try to reach you," my mother said, still facing the window. "If anyone asks about Lily, you know nothing. You've been planning to study abroad for months. This has nothing to do with her." "I understand." "Good girl," my father said. I wasn't a girl. I was 24 years old, but I didn't correct him. That night, I packed my suitcase in silence. Lily came to my room once, leaning against the doorframe with her arms crossed. She was beautiful, even with worry creasing her forehead. She had always been beautiful. "I'm sorry," she said. I folded another shirt. "It's fine. I didn't mean for this to happen. I know. I'll make it up to you when you come back." I looked at her then, really looked at her. At the way she stood like the world would always bend around her, would always make room for her mistakes. "Sure," I said. She left. I continued packing. The week passed in a blur of preparations and goodbyes I didn't want to say. My colleagues at the marketing firm where I worked threw me a small party. They thought I was pursuing an exciting opportunity. I smiled and accepted their congratulations and said nothing about the truth underneath it all. My best friend Emma called me the night before I left. "This feels so sudden," she said. "Last month you were talking about that promotion and now you're leaving the country." Things changed. "Jenny, what's really going on?" I wanted to tell her. I wanted to say that I was being erased, that my family was shipping me away like an inconvenient piece of furniture. But the words stuck in my throat, heavy with shame that wasn't even mine. "I just need a change," I said. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. "Call me when you get there, okay?" "Okay." I never did call her. It felt easier to let that life fade away completely, to become someone new in a place where no one knew what I'd been asked to do. The airport was early and cold. My father handed me an envelope of cash. My mother kissed my cheek and reminded me to call every week. Lily stayed home. She had a headache, my mother explained. On the plane, I pressed my forehead against the window and watched the city disappear below me. I felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, just a hollow kind of acceptance, like water settling into the shape of whatever container held it. I had spent my whole life being the shape they needed me to be. London was grey and vast and indifferent. I rented a small flat in Hackney, enrolled in the programme my father had selected, and learned to live in the spaces between other people's lives. I attended lectures. I worked part-time at a bookshop. I called home every Sunday and listened to my mother talk about Lily's recovery. Lily's new job, Lily's engagement to a nice boy from a good family. "When can I come home?" I asked once, 6 months in. "Soon, darling. The timing just isn't right yet." 1 year became 2. 2 became 5. The excuses changed, but the answer stayed the same. Lily had a wedding to plan. Then a baby. Then another baby. The family couldn't handle any reminders of that difficult time. Not yet. Maybe next year. I stopped asking. I finished my degree. Then another. I got a job at a research firm, then a better job at a consulting company. I learnt to speak like the British, all clipped efficiency and understatement. I learnt to drink tea at 4 o'clock and complain about the weather. I learned to build a life from nothing, because that's what I had, nothing except what I created myself. I didn't make many friends. Friendship required explanations I didn't want to give. But I had colleagues I respected, clients I helped, a small circle of acquaintances I met for drinks occasionally. I had a flat with a view of the park. I had professional recognition, good performance reviews, a growing bank account. I had everything except permission to go home. The years moved like a river I couldn't step out of. I dated occasionally, a colleague who transferred to another office, a friend of a friend who found me interesting for 3 months, a quiet man I met at a gallery who said I seemed sad and wanted to fix that. None of them lasted. I couldn't explain the weight I carried, and I was tired of pretending it wasn't there. On my 30th birthday, I sat alone in my flat with a store-bought cake and a candle I didn't light. 6 years had passed. I had built a career, a reputation, a life that looked complete from the outside. But inside, I was still that girl in her bedroom, folding clothes in silence while her family decided her future without her. I called my mother that night, breaking my pattern of Sunday-only calls. "Jenny, is everything all right?" "It's my birthday." Silence. Then, "Oh, darling, I'm so sorry. I forgot. Things have been so busy with Lily's second baby." I hung up. She didn't call back. 8 years in, I stopped calling every Sunday. My mother noticed after 3 weeks. "Jenny, is everything all right? You haven't called." "I've been busy with work." "Too busy for your family?" The irony sat heavy between us, unspoken. "I'll call when I can," I said. I started calling once a month, then every other month. The distance that had been forced on me became a distance I chose. It felt like the first honest thing I'd done in years. Year 9, I received a promotion. Senior consultant. My boss took me to dinner to celebrate. "You're brilliant, Jenny," she said. "Absolutely brilliant. The clients love you. You have a real future here." I smiled and thanked her and felt nothing. Not pride, not satisfaction. Just that same hollow recognition. I had become excellent at being whatever was needed. Even here, thousands of miles from home, I was still folding myself into the right shape. That night, I stood in my flat and looked at the life I'd built. Clean, professional, respectable, completely empty. I thought about Emma, who had stopped trying to reach me after 2 years of unreturned messages. I thought about my old colleagues who probably didn't remember my name anymore. I thought about all the birthdays my family had forgotten, all the achievements they'd never celebrated, all the years I'd spent waiting for permission to exist. I sat down on my sofa and let myself feel it, all the years of being good, being quiet, being convenient. All the times I had swallowed my anger and smiled and said, "It's fine and I understand." All the ways I had made myself small so Lily could stay big. Something cracked open inside me, not violent but absolute. A door closing on one room and opening on another. I called my father the next morning. "I'm coming home," I said. "Jenny, darling, the timing. I'm coming home in 2 weeks. I've already bought the ticket. I'm not asking permission." Silence. I could hear him breathing, recalculating. "We'll prepare the guest room," he said finally. Thank you. I hung up before he could say anything else. I gave my notice at work. My boss tried to convince me to stay, offered me more money, more flexibility. I declined everything. My colleagues threw me a going-away party. They asked about my family, what they were like, if I was excited to see them again. It's complicated, I said. They nodded like they understood, but they didn't. How could they? The plane descended into familiar humidity, familiar haze. 10 years had passed, but the airport looked the same. The air smelled the same, exhaust and cooking oil and something green and growing underneath it all. My mother was waiting at arrivals. She looked older, thinner. Her hair was perfectly styled. Her smile was perfectly measured. "Jenny, welcome home." She hugged me briefly. I smelled her perfume, unchanged after all these years. "How was the flight?" "Long." "Your father is waiting in the car. Lily wanted to come, but the children had school." "Of course." The drive home was full of careful small talk. My mother pointed out changes in the city. New buildings, new roads, new shopping centres. Everything had grown taller, denser, shinier. I watched it pass outside the window and felt like a ghost returning to haunt her own life. The house looked exactly the same. The jasmine in the front garden had grown larger, but everything else was preserved like a museum. I carried my suitcase to the guest room. Not my old room, I noticed. That probably belonged to Lily's children now when they visited. "Your room is being used for storage," my mother said, reading my face. "We can clear it out if you'd like to stay there instead." "The guest room is fine." It was a lie. Nothing about any of this was fine. But old habits were hard to break. "Dinner is at 7, my mother said. "Lily and her family are coming. She's very excited to see you." I unpacked slowly. The guest room was tasteful and impersonal. There was nothing of me here, no trace that I had ever lived in this house at all. I had been erased as thoroughly as Lily's scandal, replaced by a more convenient narrative. I opened my laptop and looked through old photos. There I was at 24, smiling at the camera, unaware that I was about to disappear. There was Emma's face, frozen in a moment I could never get back. There was the life I should have had, preserved like an extinct species. I closed the laptop. I sat on the bed and waited. Dinner was orchestrated chaos. Lily arrived with her husband David and their 2 children, a boy of 7 and a girl of 4. She looked radiant, healthy, happy. Motherhood had added a softness to her that made her even more beautiful. "Jenny!" She rushed to hug me. "Oh my God, you look amazing. So sophisticated. Doesn't she look sophisticated, David?" David smiled politely. "Very. Welcome back, Jenny." The children hid behind Lily's legs, staring at me with wide eyes. "They're shy," Lily explained. "They've only seen you in photos. Can you believe it? Their own aunt, and they don't even know you." She said it lightly, like a joke. Like it was something that had just happened, not something that had been done. Dinner was loud. The children demanded attention. Lily and my mother discussed school activities and dietary restrictions. My father asked me polite questions about London, nodding at my answers without really listening. David checked his phone periodically, apologizing each time. I ate quietly and watched them. This was the family that had been protected. This was what my exile had purchased. Lily's, my perfect life, unblemished and shining. "So what made you decide to come back?" Lily asked over dessert. "Mom said you just suddenly announced it." "I was ready," I said. "That's wonderful. You know, I always felt terrible that you stayed away so long. But Mom said you loved it there, that you were really building something special." "Did she?" Lily didn't notice the flatness in my voice, or she chose not to. "You'll have to tell me all about it. We should have lunch, just us sisters, like old times." We had never had lunch, just us sisters. There were no old times to return to, but I nodded. Sure. The children started fighting over a toy. Lily mediated with practiced patience. My mother brought out more tea. My father told a story about someone at his office. The evening wore on in a performance of normalcy that made my skin itch. When they finally left, Lily hugged me again at the door. "I'm so glad you're back," she whispered. "I really missed you." I didn't answer. I just stood there and let her hug me and waited for it to be over. After they left, my mother started clearing dishes. I helped her, falling into old rhythms without thinking. "Lily looks happy," I said. "She is. David is a good man, patient, understanding." "Does he know?" My mother's hand stilled on the plate she was rinsing. "Know what?" "About why I really left." "Jenny, that was a long time ago. There's no reason to bring it up now." "I'm not bringing it up. I'm asking if he knows." "No, and there's no reason he should. That situation was resolved. Everyone moved on." "Did they?" My mother turned off the water. "You did well in London, Jenny. You built a good life. You should be proud." "I should be proud that I got sent away so Lily wouldn't have to face her own consequences." "You make it sound so ugly. We did what was best for the family." "You did what was best for Lily. She was fragile, she needed protection. And what did I need?" My mother looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something like uncertainty in her eyes. "You were always stronger. You could handle it. So I got punished for being strong. No one was punishing you. We gave you an opportunity. You exiled me." The word sat between us, heavy and true. "I think we're both tired," my mother said finally. "Let's talk about this another time." She left the kitchen. I stood there alone, hands in the sudsy water, exactly where I had been standing 10 years ago when my father called me into his study. I finished the dishes and went to bed. The next morning, I started looking for my own place. My mother protested. "You just got home. Stay here for a while. Save money." "I need my own space." "Jenny, don't be stubborn about this." "I'm not being stubborn. I'm being honest. This isn't my home anymore. Maybe it never was." I found a small apartment within a week. Modern, minimal, mine. I signed the lease and moved in with the single suitcase I'd brought from London. I bought furniture piece by piece, building something that belonged only to me. Lily called every few days, suggesting lunch, coffee, shopping. I made excuses. Too busy settling in, too much job hunting to do. Maybe next week. 3 weeks after I returned, my father called me to his study again. "We need to talk." I sat in the same chair I'd sat in 10 years ago. He looked older now, greyer, but his voice still carried the same certainty. "Your mother is upset. She says you're avoiding the family." "I'm not avoiding anyone. I'm just not available on demand." "Jenny, I know you're angry about what happened, but you have to understand, we were in an impossible situation." "No, Lily was in an impossible situation of her own making, and you made it my situation instead. We needed someone we could trust, someone responsible, someone disposable." He flinched. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? I was 24 years old. I had a job here, friends, a life. And you sent me away with 1 week's notice to cover up Lily's affair with a married man. You didn't ask what I wanted. You didn't consider what it would cost me. You just decided I was the solution. We thought you'd be gone a year or 2 at most. You told me to stay away for 10 years. Every time I asked to come home, you had a new excuse. Lily's wedding, Lily's babies. The timing wasn't right. The timing was never right, because I was never the priority." My father was quiet. He looked down at his hands, then back at me. "What do you want, Jenny? You want me to apologize? Fine, I'm sorry. We handled it badly. But it's done now. You can't change the past. No, I can't, but I can change how I participate in this family going forward. What does that mean? It means I'm not folding myself up anymore to make room for Lily. It means I'm not pretending the last 10 years didn't happen. It means I'm going to build my own life here on my own terms, and if that makes anyone uncomfortable, that's not my problem to solve. You're being selfish. The word that had been used against me my whole life. The weapon that had always made me back down. Yes, I said. I am, finally. I left before he could respond. 2 months passed. I found a job with an international firm, leveraging my London experience. The work was challenging, engaging. I made new professional connections. I rented a car and drove to places I'd never been. I went to dinner alone and didn't apologise for the empty seat across from me. I started rebuilding the life I'd abandoned. I tracked down Emma through social media. She'd gotten married, had a baby, moved to the coast. When I messaged her, she responded within an hour. Jenny! Oh my God, Jenny! Where have you been? We talked on the phone for 2 hours. I told her some of it. Not everything, but enough. She listened without judgment. I thought you'd forgotten about me, she said. I forgot about myself. I'm trying to remember now. Well, remember this. You were always the strong one, the real one. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. After we hung up, I cried for the first time since I'd come back. Not from sadness, but from the relief of being seen. Lily kept calling. I kept declining. Finally, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. Why are you avoiding me? She demanded when I opened the door. I'm not avoiding you. You've turned down every invitation I've sent. You don't come to family dinners. Mom says you barely speak to her. What's going on? I stepped aside to let her in. She looked around my apartment, taking in the sparse furniture, the bare walls, the absence of family photos. Nice place, she said, but she didn't mean it. Thank you. Jenny, talk to me. I don't understand why you're acting like this. I sat down on my sofa. She sat across from me, perched on the edge of the chair like she might need to leave quickly. Do you remember why I went to London? I asked. You wanted to study abroad. No, I was sent abroad because you slept with a married man and the family needed the scandal to disappear. They needed me to disappear so you could stay and pretend it never happened. Lily's face went pale. Yes, there was that situation, but you wanted to go. You said it was fine. I said it was fine because that's what I always say. Because that's what I'm supposed to do. Be understanding, be flexible, make it easy for everyone else. That was 10 years ago, Jenny. I thought you were over it. Over it? Lily, I lost 10 years of my life. I missed everything. Graduations, weddings, births, I watched from 5,000 miles away while you built the life I was supposed to have here. And the whole time, everyone acted like I chose it, like it was my decision to leave. I didn't ask them to send you away. You didn't have to. You never have to ask. Things just happen for you, don't they? Problems just disappear. Other people just handle it. Did you ever even think about me while I was gone? Did you ever once consider what you cost me? Lily's eyes filled with tears. I thought about you all the time. I felt terrible. I wanted to make it up to you. How? How were you going to make it up to me? What could possibly balance those 10 years? I don't know. I thought when you came back, we could start over. Be sisters again. We were never sisters, Lily. We were the beautiful one and the useful one. We were the one who mattered and the one who cleaned up her messes. That's not true, isn't it? Tell me one time, just one time when you were asked to sacrifice something for me. One time when you were the one who had to be convenient. She couldn't. We both knew she couldn't. I'm sorry, she said finally. I'm really sorry. I know that's not enough, but I am. I know you are. But sorry doesn't give me back those years. Sorry doesn't change the fact that when it mattered, you all chose your comfort over my entire life. So what now? You just hate us forever. I don't hate you, but I don't trust you either. And I'm not going to pretend we're one big happy family when we're not. Lily stood up. She wiped her eyes, and I saw something shift in her face, hurt turning to anger. You've changed. London made you cold. No, I said. London taught me I don't have to set myself on fire to keep other people warm. She left without saying goodbye. I sat in my apartment and felt the weight of it. Not guilt, not regret, just the clean, clear feeling of finally telling the truth. 3 months later, something broke. The man Lily had the affair with, a semi-prominent businessman named Richard Wong, was involved in a corruption scandal. His name was all over the news. And because journalists dig, because the past never stays buried as neatly as people hope, someone found the old story. The photos from 10 years ago resurfaced. Lily's name resurfaced. My phone started ringing. Journalists, somehow tracking me down, asking for comment. Did I know about my sister's relationship with the businessman? Had the family covered it up? Why had I really left the country? I didn't answer. I let them go to voicemail. My mother called, frantic. Jenny, the press is calling. They're asking about you, about why you left. What did you tell them? Nothing. I haven't spoken to anyone. You can't talk to them. Do you understand? If they ask, you say nothing. You don't know anything, just like before. Just like before. The words hung there, and I realised they thought I would do it again. They thought I would lie for them again, cover for them again, disappear myself again to protect Lily. Mum, I need to go. Jenny, promise me. I hung up. A journalist caught me outside my building the next morning, young, eager, holding out a recording device. Jenny Chen, can I ask you a few questions about your sister? I could have walked past him. I could have said nothing. I could have been convenient one more time. Instead, I stopped. You can ask, I said. He blinked, surprised. Really? Yes? He fumbled with his recorder. Is it true your family sent you abroad to avoid media attention about your sister's relationship with Richard Wong? I looked at him. I thought about the girl I'd been, folding laundry in the afternoon light. I thought about 10 years of exile. I thought about my mother's voice saying just like before. Yes, I said. That's true. Can you elaborate? 10 years ago, my sister had an affair with a married man. When it became public, my family was concerned about the scandal. They decided the best solution was for me to leave the country. They arranged a study program in London and told me to go. I was 24. I stayed away for 10 years because every time I tried to come home, they said the timing wasn't right. Why didn't you refuse? Because I was 24 and they were my family, and I thought, so I did what they asked. They would love me enough to let me come back. And did they? No. I had to come back on my own. He asked more questions. I answered them all honestly, calmly, without anger or embellishment. Just the facts, clean and simple. When he left, I felt lighter than I had in years. The story ran 2 days later. My quotes were featured prominently. The article painted a picture of a family that had sacrificed one daughter to protect another, of a systemic favoritism that had exiled an innocent person to preserve a guilty one's reputation. My phone exploded. My mother called 16 times. My father called 8. Lily called and called and called. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I went to work. I had dinner with a colleague. I went home and slept peacefully. The next morning, my father appeared at my apartment. He looked smaller than I remembered, older and uncertain. Can I come in? I let him. He sat down heavily on my sofa. What have you done? I told the truth. You've destroyed your sister, do you understand that? You've destroyed this entire family. No, Dad. Lily destroyed herself 10 years ago. You and Mum destroyed our family when you decided one daughter was worth protecting and the other was worth sacrificing. I just stopped lying about it. We gave you opportunities. You gave me exile. You can call it whatever you want, but that's what it was. So this is revenge? You're going to tear us apart because you're bitter? I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm just not holding it together anymore. There's a difference. He stood up. Your mother is devastated. She's barely eating. And Lily is getting phone calls, messages. David is furious. The children are confused. I'm sorry they're hurting. I really am. But I'm not responsible for their pain. I'm only responsible for my own truth. You're being selfish. Yes, I said again. I am. He left. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Over the next few weeks, the story grew and then faded, as stories do. Other scandals emerged. The news cycle moved on. But the truth stayed, solid and unmovable. My inbox filled with messages. Some were cruel, calling me a traitor, saying I'd sold out my family for attention. But others were different. Women, mostly, telling me their own stories of being sacrificed, overlooked, erased, thanking me for speaking up, telling me I'd given them permission to do the same. I read every single one. Lily called me once more, 2 months after the article ran. David left, she said. Her voice was small, hollow. He took the kids. He said he can't trust me anymore. He said I'm not the person he thought I was. I'm sorry. Are you? Is this what you wanted? I didn't want anything except to stop being invisible. Well, congratulations. You're visible now and I'm destroyed. Lily, don't. Just don't. You got your revenge. I hope it was worth it. She hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, waiting to feel guilty, waiting to feel like I'd done something wrong. I felt sad. I felt tired. But I didn't feel guilty. I put the phone down and went about my day. My parents stopped calling. They stopped inviting me to things. I was erased again, but this time it was different. This time I had chosen the distance. I had drawn the boundary. I had said no more and meant it. 3 months after everything exploded, I got a text from Lily. I'm in therapy. My therapist says I need to take accountability for my actions. So I'm telling you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the affair. I'm sorry for letting them send you away. I'm sorry for benefiting from your exile. I'm sorry for not fighting for you. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to hear it from me. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back, thank you. I hope therapy helps you. I really do. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't cruelty either. It was just honest. She didn't respond. I didn't expect her to. 6 months later, I was in my apartment on a Saturday afternoon. Sunlight came through the windows. I had nowhere I needed to be. Nothing I needed to perform. I made coffee and sat down with a book and realised I was content, not happy in some explosive, triumphant way, just quietly, steadily content. I had built a life that was mine. I had work I enjoyed, friends I trusted, space that belonged only to me. I had the truth, spoken aloud and witnessed. I had taken up all the room I needed, and the sky hadn't fallen. My phone buzzed, an email from my mother, subject line, family gathering. I opened it, cautious. Jenny, your father and I are hosting dinner next Sunday. Lily will be there with the children. They're visiting for the weekend. We would like you to come as well. I'm not asking you to forget what happened. I'm just asking you to consider whether permanent estrangement is what you really want. We're still your family. That has to mean something. Mum. I read it twice. I thought about the girl I used to be, so desperate to be chosen that she would have accepted any crumb of inclusion. Then, I thought about the woman I was now. I hit reply. Mum, thank you for the invitation. I'll think about it. But I want you to understand something first. I'm not the same person I was. I won't pretend everything is fine when it isn't. I won't make myself small to make other people comfortable. If I come to dinner, I come as myself, whole, honest, and unmovable. If that's not acceptable, then I won't come, and I'll be fine with that. Let me know. Jenny. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Her response came an hour later. Come as yourself. We'll try to do the same. I sat with that for a long time. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't acceptance. But it was something. A crack in the wall, a possibility. Sunday came. I drove to my parents' house in the late afternoon. The jasmine still bloomed in the front garden. The door still looked the same. I rang the bell. My mother answered. We looked at each other for a long moment. Hi, Mum. Hi, Jenny. She stepped aside to let me in. Inside, I could hear voices, my father, Lily, the children laughing. The same scene I'd left 10 years ago, reconfigured around my absence. But I wasn't absent anymore. I was here, solid and real, taking up space. I walked into the living room. They all turned to look at me. I saw the uncertainty in their faces, the careful calculation of how to act, what to say. The Lily looked thinner. There were shadows under her eyes. The children clung to her legs, wary of the adult's tension. I sat down in an empty chair, not on the edge, not apologetically, right in the centre. Hi, I said. Hi, they echoed. And we began. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just the slow, difficult work of being honest with each other, of seeing each other, of letting me be seen. It was uncomfortable, it was awkward. There were silences that stretched too long and conversations that ended too abruptly. My father cleared his throat repeatedly. My mother fussed with the food. Lily kept glancing at me like I might detonate at any moment. But I stayed in my chair. I took up my space. I spoke my truth when it needed speaking and held my silence when it didn't. At one point, the little girl, my niece, though she felt like a stranger, came and stood in front of me. Are you really our aunt? She asked. Yes. Mommy said you live far away. I used to. I live here now. She considered this. Are you going to stay? Everyone in the room went still. Yes, I said, I'm going to stay. The girl nodded, satisfied, and went back to her toys. Something shifted then, not dramatically, but perceptibly. My father's shoulders relaxed slightly. My mother's smile became less strained. Even Lily looked at me with something that might have been relief. We were a long wedge from healed. Maybe we would never be. But we were here, together, trying. When dinner ended and I walked back to my car, I felt it. Not vindication, not triumph, just the quiet certainty of knowing I had finally stopped disappearing. I drove home through the familiar streets, past the places I remembered from before. Everything looked different now. Or maybe I looked different. Maybe that was the same thing. I parked outside my apartment and sat for a moment in the silence. 10 years ago, I had been sent away to make room for someone else's mistakes. I had lost years, opportunities, the life I should have had. But I had gained something too. I had learned that I could survive exile. I could build something from nothing. I could speak truth that no one wanted to hear and stand in the aftermath without crumbling. I had learned that I was stronger than anyone, including myself, had ever given me credit for. I got out of the car and walked up to my apartment. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. Clean, quiet, mine. I made tea and stood by the window looking out at the city I'd been exiled from and had chosen to return to, not because they called me back, but because I decided I was done running. The night was gentle, the city hummed below, and I stood there, whole and unmovable, exactly where I belonged. Finally.